Yin Water Rabbit 2023. This is a little talk just based off my online blog I've got on my website, astropillars.com.au. And I just want to announce I finished a book called A Beginner's Guide to Chinese Astrology, which is an adjunct to my course. So for those interested, go and check it out. There's you can browse the website and have a look and see what it's all about. If those are interested in Chinese astrology, go for it, because it is a pretty cool subject and it's one worth investing in. And anyway, let's have a look at this, because I always look at the years only in relation to charts. So when I write up blogs on the years, I try and get specific about what the animal branches represent, so to speak, because this is the most popular thing to look at from Chinese astrology. Everyone knows they're born in year of the horse, rat, dragon, so to speak. But it's like anything with astrology. We need to understand our charts and how to maximize the most out of how a year is really going to affect us. So it's the same thing with planetary astrology. When we talk about new moons, full moons and eclipses, we need to know our charts to know where these things fall in our chart to see how they're going to affect us personally. This is a really important thing to say, because there's a lot of talk on astrology and it's just people ranting on about generic things. But really, I mean, if you want to maximize the most out of anything, you need to know your own natal chart or your 4 pillars Chinese astrological chart. And I always emphasize this at the end of my blogs, because otherwise I am talking a little bit generically, so to speak, which I will now, but there's a place for it. So the rabbit can actually be considered quite aloof generally, avoids confrontation, benevolent, because the wood element's ruled by Jupiter, so benevolence is a very important key word. And they can generally be inclined to gossip and are very artistic. This is a very generalization, but this is out of all my notes out of the years when they used to talk about branches, they always used to have certain keywords associated to them, and they were the keywords for it. But the energetic theme of the year is moving more into a yin, so more kind of introspective type year for us. So now, the interesting thing about the rabbit is it's considered one of the 4 peaks in Chinese astrology. So the elements that have the branches that do have the 4 peaks alongside of the rabbit are going to be the horse, the rat, and the rooster. So they represent the 4 peaks of the seasons, the 4 seasons. That being the wood element, let's just talk about the rabbit, because this is what we're here for. The rabbit is spring, so it's the peak of spring. And a lot of these elements within branches the branches always have hidden elements within them. So when it comes to the 4 peaks, they have the same element hidden within them. So the rabbit has hidden wood, because it's at that peak of spring. And so for those who do, if they know their 4 pillars chart, I'll tell you something very auspicious. Because if you have, say, 3 of the 4 peaks, but say the rabbit's missing, so say you've got the rat, the horse, and the rooster, and then the rabbit comes in, it's going to be a very auspicious year for you, because that completes the 4 peaks in your natal chart, just as an example of how these things can work. If you have roosters sitting somewhere in your chart and the rabbit's coming in, say you've got it in the house of the spouse, there's potential for clash. It can be conflict within your personal relationship, or it can maybe possibly generate a challenging year for you. There can be a lot of movement, instability in the year. for you. So depending on where it sits, so if you're born in the year of the rooster and the rabbit clashes with the rooster, in my opinion, it won't mean too much depending on how old you are for a start, because the year pillar represents the from year 0 to the age of 15. So if there's a clash, and then there can be some unsettlement coming in your early childhood years, so to speak. So this is just giving you a flavor of how these kind of things work. We need to know the positions of where the other branches are that can potentially clash or combine with the rabbit, so to speak, because the rabbit is part of the wood element configuration. So if there's other branches in your chart, like the pig and the goat, then it's going to say you've got a pig and the goat in the chart somewhere, and the rabbit comes in. Well, then it can complete your 3 harmony combination with the wood element. So that's the it's a full wood element combination. That's highly auspicious. So these kind of things are really, really important to understand when it comes to Chinese astrology, because then you're going to really understand how to navigate the terrain and how these things are going to work out for you each year. Now, having said that, the rabbit is a peach blossom star, which means it can peach blossom stars, people with a lot of peach blossoms generally in their charts can be quite attractive, but sometimes they're you can attract a lot of romance in your life, so to speak, or it can be wanted or unwanted romance. So you can have a lot of admirers, but it can be quite annoying, or you can, these kind of things. So it depends on whether the elements are favorable and unfavorable for you as well. But peach blossom stars generally can be a symbol of longevity. And like I was saying before, when we look at the connection in the 4 pillars, the romantic connections, we need to really understand the position of the house of the spouse, which is what the house of the spouse is what really it sits under our day master element. And the day master element, or the self element, is one of the key pivotal points in the chart that we use to navigate the terrain of the whole chart to work out what the chart is using elemental wise, so to speak. But so, if you sit on the rooster in the house of the spouse and the rabbit comes in and you're single, it might bring in it's a clash year, right? Sometimes clash years can bring something to you. So it can bring in a romance that can be potentially short-lived because it's in a clash year, so to speak. So someone may come in out of your life that year, so to speak. But if you have, say, if you're sitting on the pig or the goat in the house of the spouse and the rabbit comes in, then it's combining with your house of the spouse, which means it's bringing someone to you as well. So these clashes and combinations are really important to understand, because they can, either show us potential or conflict within our own personal charts. And if we're using, say, a metal element, and so we've got a strong metal combination, so we've got a few roosters combined with some snakes or the oxes. So if we're using metal element in our configuration, and then the rabbit comes in and combines with the rooster and clashes, then it's going to break up that metal element configuration and can throw our whole foundation of our chart into a little bit of turmoil. So we can experience a little bit of instability for the year. So, but generally the yin water nature of the year represents yin water types generally are very deep people. But they're also incredibly soft and gentle and humble. They really don't show their knowledge and wisdom, so to speak. They're often highly intelligent, but they never really show what's going on the outside, just from that personality point of view. So when we think of yin water compared to yang water is like fierce water, right? Just think of the ocean when it gets angry. so to speak, or fast moving rapids, things like this. Yang water types can be extremely motivated and driven, whereas yin water types, from a nature point of view, the water's like a pond, dew. It's kind of like light rain. It's really soft and gentle. And they're very deep, internal, reflective thinkers generally. They tend to keep their wisdom to themselves, and then when people kind of probe and ask something, they realize, geez, wow, man, this person is incredible with their knowledge, but they never really show it. It's a very kind of, very humble, very egoless in a way type of element. One of the best ways to describe that yin water nature. And I would say, from that divination point of view, because the heavenly stems were considered the days of the week, so to speak. So there's 10 of them. So the heavenly stems are the yin and yang counterparts of the elements. And the yin water stem was the last day of the week, so to speak, in ancient China. So there was a 10-day week, and that was the day for divination, for, a day for consulting the spirit, or getting in touch with your ancestors, this kind of thing. So there is quite a deep spiritual side to this element of yin water. And what else? And I think another important thing to really make emphasis is, when we talk about water element in Chinese astrology, we are actually talking, it's not like water element in planetary astrology, which is more connected to deep feeling, so to speak. It is has more of a mercurial nature. So I always make this emphasis, particularly in teaching Chinese astrology, because the water element in Chinese astrology, people with a lot of it or are using water, they are very good at connecting and networking, because it's ruled by the planet Mercury. Mercury is the god, the messenger, so to speak, the god of the underworld. Well, not the god of the underworld, but he's the messenger of the underworld. He has the ability, in the Greek mythology, he's the trickster god. So he was like the psychopomp who used to guide souls to assist them to the passage to the afterworld. And this is why this yin water type character can be quite deep, very deep and internal in a way. But it has a very mercurial nature, which makes them a great communicator, writer, and gives them good teaching ability. But obviously there's a lot of different configurations. We need to look into this. I'm talking generally here, but the nature of water is very mercurial from a Chinese astrological point of view. And one thing I was going to mention as well, because when we look at the Chinese astrological years, we look at the sexagenary cycle. Now, the sexagenary cycle is a 60-year cycle that covers all the bases or the combinations of the heavenly stems and branches. This is why in ancient China, 60 years was a very important milestone, because you were completed all those transitions through those heavenly stem branch combinations. Now, we tend to look 60 years ago to look at the themes of what potentially could be coming up during the year. And I find next year is going to be interesting on the political level, because I think it could get a little bit darker in terms of a potential major political assassination. I'm just going to put this one out there. I'm not going to say there's a potential for this to happen, because this is 60 years ago was when the famous John F. Kennedy was assassinated. And there's a lot of turbulence going on at the moment politically. Obviously, there's a lot of great change going on at the planet, so to speak, at the moment. But it will definitely be a year of, I think, some political turmoil and potential for assassination of some kind. I'm not saying who it is. I'm not going to jump in that bandwagon, but we'll see what happens throughout the year. And also, I think Like all water years, it's very important to go with the flow, particularly yin water and yang water. The water types, it's like that saying that Bruce Lee comes to mind, which I wrote in my blog, when he used to say, be like water. Water has a very good knack of getting around things. It has that ability just to adapt and go with the flow. So I would say this year we'll feel a little bit softer and gentler on that level, just from that Chinese astrological point of view. But I think there still will be a lot of water coming down on the planet. Water years can do this. They can bring a lot of the natural element down onto the planet as well. So this is just my little snapshot of the year, my little take on the yin water rabbit for 2023. And like I said before, if you just want to jump over and have a look at my course and book, by all means go for it. I'm available. You can contact me on my email by then, on my website, if you have any further questions. So thank you for listening.